Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Red Path. My name is Brian, and this here is a now regular guest, honorary member of the Red Path team, Jack Harpster.
Hello.
How's it going, Jack?
Going great. Going great. It was good to see you at Worlds,
Yep.
Brian. Um, and I'm happy to be back on the show. Feels good.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I mean, I always like having Jack around, just having good opinions and good soundboard to bounce someone off because, like, he's like obviously, I won't say obviously, but he's an okay player. He's a pretty good player. I mean, pretty good run at WCW. Did better than me. You made it into the top 16, bud. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I tried my best to get out of the pod, but some dirty knife elves got me on the way out, which maybe
Yeah.
we'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that matchup because that matchup's an
Well,
interesting one.
spoil it a little bit, but today we have a very special topic. We're going to be talking about a matchup tier list. Jack and I are going to run through pretty much every single army in the game. We're going to be using our personal opinions and our personal experiences at top tables. So by no means is this fact. This is just pretty much our opinions. And then we just got back from Worlds, which we got to see pretty much the live meta that we're in right now at its crux. So I really feel like we have a pretty good tap on the pulse for where the game's at right now. But like I said, these are just our opinions. We're going to keep them fun. And yeah.
Absolutely.
Um,
I mean, like anytime you talk about matchups, people are going to disagree, and that is fine. You can have your own opinion. We have our opinion. Now, I will say this is more prone to anecdote than anything else.
absolutely.
Because if you play Jim at your local and he routinely beats your ass, that's going to influence how you feel about a matchup, even if maybe you are favored in that matchup. Just he's just a better player than you. Happens, right?
Happens. Yeah, and we're going to, because I mean, when we start talking about like Space Marines, for example, or Blood Angels, or any of the other broader factions, we're going to focus on whatever the most popular variant of that army is. If we're talking Tyranids, we're probably going to stick to Tunnel Snakes, for example, and maybe we'll like move it back and forth. So if you just see a screenshot of whatever it is, please make sure there's a little bit of context behind it. We're going to try to be as broad yet narrow as we can at the same time. So with that, Jack, let's get right into it.
Let's do it.
All right, guys. Here is the absolutely scientifically named how you would see it in any PhD textbook. This is exactly what you're looking for when you're looking for logical names for our tier list. We have, of course, creme de la pairing as our top pairing. That's what we think is easy claps. You should have no problem. You should be relieved when you see an army up there. If you pair into them at a tournament, you should be like, thank the Lord, it's not something else. This is exactly where you're going to be. Then you have don't throw underneath that, which is pretty, I'd say that's like what we would call like a green matchup or like it's not necessarily free. It's not necessarily free, but it can come with a little bit of difficulty. Then you have the thinking man's game. That's where we would say that's like your mid-table matchups. That's where you're going to say you're going to go to 50-50. You're going to be white knuckles on the table. Both of you are going to be sweating it out, and it could be any man's game. And then we have Psy, which Jack named, which
You see the pairing in your app, you're just like, all right. Like you're not dead. You're not dead in the water, but you're just ugh.
you
All
definitely
right.
got to play a clean game. You
Yeah.
definitely got to play a really clean and tight game. And then we have Captain Y. And that's usually when you put something as a red in your pairings, you aren't paying attention at all to the pairing process. You look down at your phone, you look at your captain, you look at your opponent who's putting their army down in front of you, and you're saying, "Why on earth?" And your captain says, "Get a two."
How did I get this? What?
How did I get this?
Yeah, so that one's the really bad ones. The really quite bad ones.
Which we actually have a couple, maybe. I don't know. I have an
Yeah.
opinion, and I think, I mean, we're probably just gonna get straight into it, Jack. And I think we're starting off with one of those.
Yeah, AdMech is so bad for us. I mean, so the deal with AdMech is they just have too much stuff, and then all of their stuff does too much damage. It's really, really tough for a non-flying melee army to deal with. Because if they can just beat you on a fair game, Well, that's what we got.
It it really feels like AdMech has a lot going for it right now. And you know what? Of all of the armies to be meta right now, and who deserves to be top dog, you know what? AdMech deserves their time in the sun. I mean, they've been
Oh,
consistently bad the entire edition,
they
the
can take
whole
the
edition.
entire edition off. Okay, they can take an entire edition off.
Oh, you tired of it already?
Yes.
Because you had to play Richard at Worlds, didn't you? Granted, with sisters, but
Yeah, so I actually played three AdMech at Worlds. AdMech did very, very well at Worlds. Their conversion rate into undefeated day one and day two
it was
was
disgusting.
incredibly above what the average should be. I think 50% of all AdMech players were undefeated after day one, and slightly under a third of all AdMech players were undefeated after day two. They're 4-0.
Oh, that should be like 6%, not a third.
Yeah, not counting Shadow Round, but
And
going into Shadow Round, you had like a 1 in 3 to 4 chance of making Shadow Round if you just submitted AdMech to the
yeah,
event.
it was actually quite insane how good this army is, and it has a lot going for it right now. Call getting rerolls to hit just randomly, like they're just like, hey, have Oath of the Moment in addition to all of the other crazy stuff you do. World leaders tend to struggle, in my opinion, with armies that are faster than us that can poke us when we're trying to stage. Like we like being able to stage with our threat ranges and feel comfortable that we're relatively safe within our staging spots. And if somebody can walk out and poke us and make that uncomfortable for us, that matchup tends to not really be free. And
Uh,
AdMech,
yes.
they have the Rust Stalkers can go like 24 inches and then charge you with +2 to charge and then full rerolls to hit and will Thanos snap a Berserker squad off the table or at least kill enough of it that it is no longer functional. And
Yeah, I
and
think the MSU variant is better into this because you can at least solve some problems through shooting and you can solve some problems with smaller unit packages, right? You don't have to commit like a 20-man unit because that'll just get killed.
yeah,
But even then, it's if they know what they're doing, they're gonna just block you into your deployment zone and trade 1 for 1 with you until you're out of stuff.
while those Cataphrons sit in the back, out shooting you, outranging you, they're going to measure 28.1 to your Forge Fiend. Same thing with the last chickens. They're going to take cheap angles on you. I think the army right now is very strong, and I think it's probably just it has like 2 to 3 more units than it probably should at the moment.
Yes. Now, to be
And
extremely fair, I think almost every army has a bad AdMech matchup. In fact,
it's true.
I don't think there is an army with a good AdMech matchup. Let
I
me put it
think
that way.
I think Emperor's Children could make the argument that they're like okay-ish into it. Like they can definitely float a bit better than everybody else. Maybe argue that I would argue that that's more of a yellow, but this is a World Leaders channel, and this is definitely not a pairing that you want to run into. Like I said, they can outtrade you. They're just as fast as us, and they can grab those cheeky shooting angles, and everything has an invuln. So no matter what you think your math is into them, they're just one variant spike away from a Forge Fiend not killing something it should, or a Berserker Squad not lifting a 10-man Rust Stalker, or 8 bound even, right? And Jackal's trading here, like, it can just be a nightmare to trade into this.
Now, in teams, if you can pick your board, you can kind of hold a score, but it's still not good. It's still not good. But hey, listen, at least this is not an us problem. This is an AdMech problem.
Yes, yes. And granted, the army is just frankly overtuned right now, and maybe in the next data slate when it gets calmed down a little bit, maybe we can look at it again. But for now, we'll move on to your homeboys, Jack, the Blood Angels.
Yeah, I've been looking a lot at Blood Angels recently. There's two main variants. There's Liberator Assault Group, which has been by far the more popular over the edition,
Yep.
and then there's My Babies, the Angelic Inheritors, which have been catching on recently. I know Alejandro Mancuso took them to Worlds, and he is a well-renowned Blood Angels guy. I've seen them pop up a bit more at my local. That might just be because that's my local. Uh, so I've seen them both catching on. I think generally, and you can tell me if this matches your expectations. I think generally we have the edge over Liberator Assault Group. I think we kind of got that sauce over them, right? We got -1 damage, which they hate
They
very,
hate.
very badly. We also have fight on deaths with units that can relevantly take a chunk out of things when they do crack the fight on death. And we have a lot of units that can just rip apart their units, right? Sanguinary Guard or whatnot, every time they activate.
And I really feel like this matchup boils down to, and you're right, but I wouldn't call this like a creme de la pairing.
No.
I wouldn't call this like a dark green matchup. I would probably call this like light green because you'd still have one very big problem to solve in the Blood Angel's army, and that is the Sanguinor, right? Sanguinor can show up, ruin your day, take a spawn engagement that you think is going to go your way, right? That's my biggest problem with the matchup is like early game, I want to be launching the spawn out to go find JPI and hunt JPI, hunt scouts. We can't usually get away with that with the Sanguinor on the table. You have
Yes.
to plan for that dude to come down.
Yeah, that guy is a lot better, and I mean a lot better in Angelic Inheritors, because in
Yeah, because
Liberators,
he can just
he loves dropping out of the sky and killing like a model, if that. He loves rolling ones. It's his favorite thing. In Inheritors, he also gets free fallback and do everything, which is grand, and he also reels ones to hit and win.
yeah, but if you can reasonably come up with a plan to catch him, which it's not like it's more I like to just accept that he's going to happen. And usually you just have a go turn, and if he does happen somewhere that's backbreaking, you have -1 damage in your pocket, try to like stem the bleeding. But usually it's a case of kill the rest of the army while the Sanguinor annoys you in one spot.
Yes, for sure. The Sanguinor is problem in lag, especially. You just kind of pretend he doesn't exist, and then when he does eventually drop on you, if it's backbreaking, as you said, you have -1 damage for that, which can solve for it. The other issue I would say in lag, and this is a pretty big one we actually have to solve, is a big unit that fights first.
Yeah.
There's a variety of units that they can take that do that. Blade Guard are fairly popular. The one I've been looking at recently is just six Sanguinary Guard with a captain that can fight first once a game, and once a game is all you need with that kind of effect.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that that unit exists is the reason this isn't a creme de la pairing,
No.
right?
But if we're talking MSC World Leaders, though, and where we just have, it feels like we have the trading advantage because there's no, I believe Lag doesn't have access to any fight on death, and even in the Space Marine Codex, there's really not that much relevant fight on death. So
Nope.
it just feels like if we're just going head to head, model for model, throwing punches, we just have that slight little like value tick up on them. And then we also have the Forge Fiend, which is incredibly efficient into Sanguinary Guard, into Blade Guard veterans, into a couple other popular models that they were going to want to be playing. So if you lean into your Forge Fiends, you lean into your fight on deaths, I think that, I mean, you're still, a melee matchup can always be usually whoever the more talented player is comes out on top. But
Yes.
assuming two equally talented players go into them, I would hedge my bet on the World Leader player.
You also have -1 damage anywhere you want, and also the Prince is an
Is a,
existential
yeah,
threat.
that dude's a menace in that matchup.
None of their units can crack it realistically. Even with like a grenade and JPI mortals, it's still probably not going to die. So your goal in that matchup is to force them to bring their real units forward to against your like spawn and things of that nature, so that you can then counter punch, pick them up. Forge Fiends are great in that matchup just for shooting at their cheap stuff because they have to send melee units out if they want to hit you, and that's exposing them to die. But if you can just pick their melee units off by shooting them, you have the
Perfect.
advantage there. Yeah.
Perfect. Yep. So we're still sticking in your wheelhouse here, Jack. Next up, we have the Black Templars, which
Okay.
I've had the I've gotten to play them a few times now. And I guess we're gonna say that this is Gladius Black Templars because the Black Templars Codex. I've heard you say it multiple times, and I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I have never seen a Black Templar player open their Codex. That thing pretty much released. They bought it, flipped to the back for the codes, scanned their codes, and said "sweet" and punched the Gladius list straight into their app, and then threw the Codex over their shoulders. Is pretty much what I've seen everyone do. Which
Some of the worst designed detachments in the entire game. So you just go with the Gladius.
which is. I mean, we're not we're not going to break down that problem, but what I will say is Gladius is the most popular version that you will see Black Templars
Yes.
by a mile. The
So
most
they do
popular.
have fight on death, which is very helpful, right, in this matchup. The book's just not that good. Like, just being real with you, that book's just not that good.
No.
Like, there was a build that did very, very well at Cali Cup this last weekend. I believe in expert hands that had 60 Primaris Crusaders. I've been assured that that list is good. I personally don't like 20 mans, as we've talked about before, just not my thing. But 20 Primaris Crusaders in a unit actually does a very, very good like Berserker impression. Actually, if you give them a bunch of, give them advance and charge, give them like +1 to move, +1 to
Yeah,
charge,
but
+1 to advance or whatever. They fight on death. They can reactive move into a blood surge, right? So they have a little bit more zhuzh there. Even so, I'm not a huge fan of that book. Honestly, I don't think it's well written. I also just don't think it's very good. And I think we do just outmuscle them when we hit them. They don't have any kind of invulns on basically anything. Every time we hit one of their tanks, one of their units, it just disappears.
The common thing I like to see that Black Templars fail at in a lot of their list writing and how they play on the table too is it fails to cross that threshold of skirmishing. Like they'll typically have like the two repulsor executioners, sometimes more. They'll usually have an impulsor. They'll have their three giant sword bro bricks, and then like one or two JPI, right?
Yep. And JPI
And
are not very good at actually like trading unless they
mhm.
have like Oath
Yeah, but
and Lance.
that
And
but that's not even like there's a chance Chaos Spawn just face tank that, right?
yes, for sure.
And that's a huge problem, right? You put Chaos Spawn behind a wall. Black Templars has no definitive solution for that other than throwing a sword bro break at it.
Yep. And if they
And
throw
that
a
is
sword for a brick,
not
you
what they
can
want to
toss
do.
the Forge Fan.
And then a Forge Fiend just says sayonara. And you know what? It's not even worth your time to send anything else other than the Forge Fiend over there. Like maybe you send Jackals over to clean up, or the Demon Prince with Lone Op goes and is like, all right, time to take out the trash. Just whatever's left over that the Forge Fiend didn't
Yep.
get. And if you can get to a point in that game where you are making them overcommit into spawn, then you lean into your guns, cool. The rep X's are scary, but they have two shots.
They're scary-ish, right? Like
I mean,
they
they'll
either have
kill eight, nine berserkers, but
yeah, sorry, they're scary into Berserkers specifically. Most other things they're not, because they're either a bunch of strength four or like two very high strength shots.
right.
So while they are a very expensive tank, their damage output is a
And
little
very.
inconsistent.
If I see that my Forge Fiend, if they don't have rerolls into my Forge Fiend, I'll just say, you know what? I'm gonna make you roll it, and I'll put a Forge Fiend out in front of a Rep X in order to shoot at something like an Impulsor or a five-man JPI flying up the board. Because I'll say you only get two shots, threes into threes into fives. I'm going to make one of them, or you're going to drop one of them at some
So,
point.
like Blood Angels, they do have some things that can cause us problems. One is full fight on death. That is very annoying, actually. If they can get ahead on you in material, which they shouldn't, because their units are they have fewer units than you do. If they do get ahead of your material, they can enforce that by just fighting on death every time you hit them, and
Yep.
so it's impossible for you to get ahead. Um, that shouldn't happen. You should just naturally be ahead on material of them the entire game, which is the reason I honestly don't think that the army's very good. But the second thing that can cause you problems is they've reactive moves and they've transports and they've reactive moves into transports. And that's kind of annoying. Not unsolvable by any means, but it's kind of annoying.
The thing is, like, if I'm sticking 10 Berserkers plus Khorne out to hunt down some Sword Bros and they react to move into a Rep X, I'll just charge the Rep X. I'm fine. I'm actually fine with that exchange entirely, right? Like,
Yeah.
it just doesn't ever feel like there's a point where I'm not okay with trading into something in that army.
Yeah, they just
Granted, you will
very
die,
no.
but we will have more pieces at the end of the game.
Yes.
So I am going to say that it is a don't throw matchup. I'd probably put it at the top of don't throw because I still think that by the weight of fairness, that army still has a lot of hard-hitting units. And if you get stuck on a bad layout, like terrain layout 4, where the Rapexes just get to tear you to pieces, you can't really like space them out, and it's a weird mission. Like you still have to be pretty careful in that matchup. I wouldn't call that a creme de la creme pairing. Um,
But it's like
but
on the edge. It's
it,
it's on the edge for
in
sure.
my opinion, yeah, it pushes that threshold.
Yeah, and they don't have fight first like the Blood Angels do. And
No.
crucially also, they don't move 12. Like Blood Angels melee all moves 12 and sometimes it advances in charges. And the Black Templars also sometimes advance in charge but move 6.
And their
So
CP economy is actually quite trash too. Like they don't have any CP generation, they don't have any CP discounting. So there's that like accursed turn that Ultramarines would usually like throw up on you where they go, yeah, I'm going to interrupt fight on death you, and I'm going to have Armor of Contempt all in the same turn, and they can get away with that because they had Calgar and they have Gilliman at the same time. And obviously that's different now. But Black Templars has to earn CP the fair way and or kill you, which means they're engaging you with sword bros, which means it's predictable. You're in charge of the pace of the game, it feels like out of them. But
yeah, I would say so.
all right. Next up, used to be the bane of the world eaters, Chaos Knights.
Mhm.
Actually, this used to be a Captain Y. This was a horrible pairing. Before. Oh,
Yes, it used to be awful because there was a bar right here, and it was, can you kill Chaos Knights? And we'll see this when we get to Imperial Knights too. Can you kill them? And the answer isn't, can you put your whole army together and kill one? That doesn't count. You have to be able to
yeah,
kill them with some amount of
yeah.
efficiency.
We had Karn. That was it.
That was it. And if the answer was no, you just got 20-0'd. Like if you just couldn't deal with them, they would just run at you. If the answer is yes, now you're playing a game. And the level to which that game is favored comes down to specifics. For us, it's actually quite favored now, depending on the map.
Yeah.
If you're on Planet Bowling Ball, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, triple get the spoilers. You can never sleep on that. If you get paired on a very open layout and it's something like Purge the Foe, like that's just like
Well,
you're
yeah,
just
purge the foe into triple gat to spoiler, sure.
hey, that was at Worlds. That was Mission 1 at Worlds.
I know it was Mission One at Worlds. There were all around,
No,
all
we're
around
not
six.
doing that. We're not doing that, Jack.
Oh,
Anyways, bring it back in. And uh broadly, I mean, Exalted 8-bound plus Slaughterbound will just take a knight by the leg and swing it onto the next table. Karn plus 10 is still all reliable. They'll still get there on math with a little bit of help. You can make that guaranteed. Throw a spawn in there, throw a fortune in there, throw a grenade in there. It is very feasible in a go turn for world leaders that we take two bigs and like three littles in
I
one turn.
think it's pretty reasonable if we get all the connections we want. I think we can kill that whole army in one turn.
Oh, absolutely. But I don't think that realistically, I think like I would say my like 9 out of 10 gold turn or my 9 out of 10 turn into Chaos Knights is probably like two bigs and a couple littles, right? And
I
that
would.
is perfectly reasonable to set up. You got an ingress that they haven't spaced out for, or you've been whittling away, and then you have the Karn advance and charge. Congrats, two bigs are gone, and then whatever's left over goes into the littles that are in the middle of the table.
And eight bound are perfect for this as well, not even exalted, because what they want to do to space out your ingress is run forward littles, and you just run out an eight bound unit, kill the little, and then they kill your eight bound unit. But at some point, exalted are going to rapid ingress and hit a
Yeah, they're gonna run out of littles eventually, and you're still holding onto your silver bullets for the bigs. And
yes.
I think this matchup is, dare I say, free at the moment,
I would
with the
say
caveat of you have to play the game very specifically, which is it doesn't matter if you're down trading early, kill the littles, get rid of them, poke your fortunes, send your demon princes out, or demon prince out, 8-bound out, whatever. As long as it's safe from the bigs, get rid of the littles. I don't care that the 8-bound are just out in those, like, I will send 8-bound plus spawn to kill a little, for example, right? To threaten a sticky on death, and I'm fine with that exchange. Because eventually they're going to run out of littles, and like I said, you're going to have that silver bullet turn where they're not going to be able to space out the bigs, and then you can just snap overcommit. All of your down trading that you had early is just immediately made up for by the fact that you're just going to push the rest of their army over with like 3 units.
yes. The prince is also there's two factors here also that make this very good. One, everyone's running triple despoilers, and despoilers can't interrupt worth a damn. And so that means if we take a go turn and we connect with 5 units, we're going to kill 5 units. We don't have to worry about an interrupt
Yeah.
messing this up. We'll talk about this when we get to Imperial Knights, but that's a
And
pretty big deal in this matchup.
and don't be afraid to overcommit to knights. That's actually one of the other big things I like to say is a knight at one is a knight at full. So kill the knight, which is why I said it's okay to actually be overcommitting
Yep.
like Karn plus spawn plus grenade plus fortune. Trust me, it's worth it because the downside of not killing the knight is instantly losing the game.
Yes. The
But
other thing is that the prince is very, very good into these guys. If you just stick his sword or his axe or whatever behind a wall, they have to get within 12. They wound him on fives. They're one damage. I get a three up, right? Unless they spend CP for any of that. So, like, they need to commit two or more to actually kill the
and
prince,
then
at which point,
if they're in range of the prince, that means they're probably within range of Karn or a rapid ingress. And that prince is only 200 points. And like I said, it's okay to trade down and lose a couple pieces in order to get that go turn where you just push the big knights over.
yep,
Next one,
not
we have
appearing on wide open table, though.
yeah,
That's
no,
a very important
the
thing to
nightmare scenario is live for everybody. Open table purge the foe is everybody's nightmare to knights. That can happen to anybody. Nobody is safe from that. In a
yes,
broad stance, though, in a medium table, I think that matchup's ours to lose.
for sure, for sure.
Necrons. I don't really like. I have an opinion on this, Jack. I'm
Yeah,
curious to hear what your opinion is first.
okay, I'll
I've
throw
been
mine out in the blind. I think this is a don't throw.
okay,
Largely because wraiths are tough, but we hit hard. And once they lose those, or those get gummed up and eventually ground down, especially with like Karn and stuff like that, Karn and 10 guys should just mulch through that unit. Once that happens, they can shoot you all they want. They're not going to hold objectives. They're not going to score secondaries, and you're going to win on points.
but I just disrespect Necron damage in general. Like specifically how Necron. I mean, Necrons have damage in their codex. They do. But it seems like they've been leaning really hard recently into I'm going to take two Wraith bricks, a 20-man warrior brick, and three Doomsday Arcs, and that's it, right?
Yes,
And
that's
it's
free. if you see low damage, high durability, sorry, buddy, you're dead. Like, yeah.
Yeah, but make sure you, I will say going into that matchup, everybody finds out about that 20-man warrior brick once. We have one answer for that, and his name is Khorne the Betrayer. And I
Yep.
don't care what it takes, you save that bullet until that squad is in front of you. I've definitely made the mistake before of launching him at a Wraith brick, losing Karn, been like, oh, this is fine, and then that warrior brick proceeds to lose 80 models throughout the rest of the game and stand in the middle. I still comfortably won the game, but it made the team's pairing, or the team did not make my team happy when I
Yeah,
promised a
for sure.
green and it turned
Throw a
into a
grenade
yellow.
first, right? Throw a grenade
Yeah.
first, then charge them with Karn and everything. Give them every single buff under the sun. Give them dev wounds. Give them sustained hits.
+1 to hit, pull that 8 pound out, and you're good.
Yep. But
And
generally, they just can't exist in the middle with us, and that makes that matchup a lot easier because they base their entire game plan around I'm going to hold objectives and do something, right? I'm going to hold objectives and shoot you. That's Star Shatter. I'm going to hold objectives and be boring. That's the 20 warrior 12 wraith unit, right? Like list, right? I'm going to hold objectives in the center and X, and if they don't hold objectives, they're not winning the game, right?
yeah.
Do whatever else they want. They're not going to win the game.
So I would say I agree with you there. Don't throw traditionally. I'd actually put them in creme de la pairing. Um,
You can put them up there. I'm not against
I,
it.
I
Honestly.
don't. I really, if I see Necrons on the other side of the table, I've never been like, oh crap, ever
Yeah, if you
over
want to
the
put them up
years.
in creme de la pairing, I support you.
They're like Papa, don't throw. You know what? I'll give them a little bit of respect. I've met I that my last game with the Necrons, I marked as a green and it turned into a yellow real fast, but still want it.
They also pass like 75% of their invulns. I don't understand it. It's all of
It's I don't know. It's that Codex has always been good and it'll always correct itself to be good at the table too.
Yep.
It's like they're like the cockroach of the edition. Like they just can't get crushed. They're just always there in the background. And they get nerfed, they get buffed. They're just always there winning events in the background.
Yeah. I will say, I think that the variant that all the most boring Necron players play, which is like double Catan, Silent King, Tesseract Vault, right? That can either be a solid green or a harsh red, depending on how
Hmm.
many influence they pass, like exclusively. And that is super annoying.
We have a glaive bound for that.
Sure, they'll pass them. I don't know.
They'll pass them.
They'll pass.
I feel like there's a little bit of trauma here. But next up, CSM. Um, this one's hard because there's like 5 viable ways to build CSM at the moment.
Yeah, this one is actually quite tough to rank. I'd probably say just thinking man's game, right? I think like we're favored into Bile just because
They're
it's
all
a melee
three.
army that isn't a very like it's a an all-rounder army with a melee detachment. It's not a melee army,
They're
right?
also all 3 wounds, and they have zero interaction with Forge Fiends. You
Yeah,
can
that
actually just push your Forge Fiends around the table and be perfectly fine.
I would say Bile is legitimately creme de la pairing, and it is one of the most popular variants
I
in my
would
opinion.
I would agree. So this is again, like I said, one of those moments where I'd say Bio would be creme de la pairing. I would say something like Vets or Raiders is definitely more of a like you actually have to sit down and think carefully about your trading, watch your P's and Q's about your angles, them advancing, them indirecting you. That Warp Talon brick is a nightmare. If we can catch it, great. Keep your Demon Prince near your Rhinos and near your Berserkers to heroic intervene onto those guys. They can be a nightmare. I think they're just like generically a good army and they present generically every problem under the sun, assuming it's like Raiders and Vets.
Yeah.
If it's Colts, we're gaming.
Yep. I
If
think
it's
that is
Bile,
another one
we're
that's like
gaming.
creme de la pairing almost.
Oh
It's
yeah.
quite fit.
Also one of those armies that relies on the durability of AC/DC bricks being nigh unkillable, especially because they rely on blood surging, but like a Berserker brick will just walk straight through them. A 10-man plus character is walking straight through them.
Also, Forge Fiends do really bad damage. Really bad thing.
Ungodly amount of damage to them.
Yeah, it's quite not good for them.
Okay, moving on. We have Custodes.
Oh,
Uh,
this is one of my favorite armies, and
and
it's been an entire edition of nothing but garbage for these men.
just paint them blue now. You can probably proxy them as Victrix.
That was low. That was that
I
was
mean,
called for.
I mean, am I wrong though?
No, you're not. I will say I actually don't think this is creme de la pairing if the Custodes player knows what they're doing, and I will explain. I know you're gearing up to put him in there because custodians suck a lot, actually. The reason that I don't think it is simply because of Caladius. Caladius can zone you out a decent amount, and if you're having to reach out and try to force like a 20-0, then it really does suck. Caladius can control the board and make it so you have to walk into the wardens. They're not like you want to counterpunch the wardens. You don't want to like you'll probably still win, to be honest with you.
See,
Sure.
the
But what were you gonna say? Sorry.
I was gonna say in teams, I 100% agree with you. If you mark this down as a 20-0, you're just straight up wrong. The custody player can just hide behind a wall on two objectives and say, "Enjoy your 12," and that's what you're going to get. In singles, though, the play pattern that I've seen is they only have so many action monkeys, right? I've
In singles, custodies are very bad.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I think their badness outweighs anything I was gonna say there.
spawn run those sisters down, then you have to stick a warden on an objective, and then that warden, as soon as one Forge Fiend lines up on it, it's done, right? Forge Fiend plus Khorne plus 10, gone. Bye-bye wardens, right?
Yeah, it might be creme de la pairing anyway, man. I don't know. That army blows.
I
Maybe
mean, you're right. The Caladiuses are horrifying, but we are at a point now where wardens are not. The best part of the Codex is no longer a problem for our army, is what I would say.
I will say that if you get to engage them on your terms, then they are like laughably not an issue. But if you have to reach out and hit them with one phase of damage, they're very much still an
Yeah,
issue.
we cannot one phase this army. That is why this was a problem in the index.
Yep.
Now, with the gift of the Demon Prince and being able to lob grenades for free and get +1 AP
Oh yeah.
when we need it, which is why the Demon Prince is important, guys, because you need the CP in matchups like this to be able to throw grenades, to be able to +1 AP, and then to also be able to -1 damage, and then to also be able to interrupt. You have to be able to do all of that, and you can only do
Yep.
that if you have a CP economy. So the
And the
Prince
Demon
is
Prince is also
crucial
really
here.
annoying for them to kill. Like really
Yeah.
annoying for them to kill.
Like, because the Cladius doesn't want to have to drive up to shoot them. Like, that's just not a real thing. It's not going to happen.
No, it's not realistically
Uh,
happen.
so they have to charge it with a Warden Brick, which may bounce. Uh,
Yeah, you get to ask them the fun question of, hey, it's the start of your fight phase. Would you like to pop your feel no pain? And there's no good answer for this because if they don't kill you, and I don't think they should kill you, if they don't kill you, then you kill like three wardens and they commit seppuku on the spot, right?
it's also one of the rare times I'm just like slamming the Overwatch button on a Forge Fiend. Like,
Oh yeah,
I'm
start of your mid phase. You want to pop that four up, Chief? They're
gonna.
like, no. Overwatch, kill two wardens. Ah.
Sometimes you get luckier, guys. I would call it. I'm sorry, Jack. I have to call this creme de la
Nah,
pairing.
you're right. It's creme de la pairing. In teams, they can make a plan to lose by a little.
Yes, it's a
They can
very
do it,
reliable plan too.
and
There's
they can
not
walk.
much that can push 10 wardens behind a wall. I don't care who you are or what army you're playing. You're not one phasing 10 wardens behind a wall.
But in a singles game, you should win this one basically every time, as long as you don't get silly with it. If you reach out and try to reach them behind a wall and try to monophase them, that's going to go bad because that is you're literally playing into their only strength. They only got the one. Don't let them use it. But in teams, I think if you put higher than a 12, you're asking to outskill them because you're going to have to.
It has to be like a really weird mission too. That I mean, a lot would have to go against you. I would definitely mark in teams like this down as like a 12 to 14
Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable.
with high upside because like your floor is probably a 12, which is nice. But
And you shouldn't lose this. You
no,
really, if you have something has gone wrong, but it can, right? If you oopsie daisy one of your Forge Fiends dies to a Caladius activation, then they rapid ingress Trajan in a place you weren't happy with, you might just die. It is
yeah.
possible. Don't let that happen.
I've also had a Blade Champ roll a fight on death solo and nail every single sustained hit. Or no, it wasn't sustained hits. I think I left one Blade Champ alive and I was like, oh, I'm fine. And then it just activated and rolled like 5 sustained hits and killed an entire Berserker squad. And I was just like, oh dear, I'm in
Oh
danger.
boy. Oh, no.
But okay, next up, like
Fucking
Custodes
go.
Junior, another Custodes Junior army.
It's basically custodies, man. It's like basic.
It's ironic because on paper you'd look at this army and be like, wow, that sounds miserable to fight as a melee army. And then you fight it and you're like, wow, this is actually fine. Like the
Yeah,
fight's first demon prime or the fight's first like teleporting basically demon Primarch is scary, but if you just go where he's not, it's like fine.
yeah. I played a bunch of games into Dark Angels with Blood Angels. I played a couple of them with World Eaters, but the Blood Angel games were where I identified the issue with that army. And the issue that the Dark Angels have, right, is you can crunch all the numbers you want and find out, oh my God, my unit does not kill 5 Deathwing Knights. Sure, most don't. But you don't need to kill 5 Deathwing Knights to win the fight with Deathwing Knights. Deathwing
No,
damage, especially off the charge, anemic, right?
I know damn well Deathwing Knights basically hit on fours. Every time I roll them, I'm an up and coming Dark Angels player. Every time I roll them, the dice trip tray is always half ones. It's just a cosmic truth for that unit. It just does not do damage.
Yeah. The if you charge into 3 Death or 5 Deathwing Knights and you kill three, those two that remain are not winning combat with you.
No.
So you can just punch through a flank, and they're very expensive, and they tend to operate solo, right? Like there's one Deathwing Knight unit in this quadrant and one Deathwing Knight unit in this quadrant. Another thing you can do is throw a grenade. Do you want to use your 4-up? No. Okay, dev wounds, right? You throw the dev wounds because the dev wounds are basically exactly the same as them taking their invuln anyway. There's no problem with that, right? They take the 4-up. But the moment they pop their 4-up, well, now the dev wounds just carve an entire unit apart and oops, you're dead.
Yeah. And the other problem that I see this army having a lot is like Jack Nailed it in the head. The damage just isn't there. The lion is scary, but he does not have like he's going to have a hard time answering the berserker problem, especially if you have the CP for -1 damage. He only has 16 attacks. They are AP3. They are going to carve through a lot of berserkers. You're probably going to lose like 6 to 7. That's not what we were there for. We're there for Khorne plus the two eviscerators just right there on the end of that, and that are probably going to take a good chunk out of the lion. Same thing if you ever get an opportunity to charge the lion with the Slaughterbound plus Exalted and Karn plus 10, the lion's just gone, right? He gets to pick one of the two problems, try to deal with one of the two problems, and then he's just gone.
Yeah. This feels
Uh,
a lot like the Blood Angels and Black Templars, where we say you're favored, but they have this one thing that's really annoying for you. Watch out for it.
yeah, and I mean,
The lion.
you don't want to walk into like the trickiest thing to walk into, especially if they're playing Wrath or I guess this is any detachment really, where they uppy the lion in their turn and then they re-ingress it down with the plan to heroic you. You think you have a nice easy charge lined up on some Vanguard vets, all of a sudden there's a lion there and your spawn are gone and the Vanguard vets are still there. Just don't fall into that trap and you'll be fine.
Yep.
And also, ironically, if anybody's gonna yell at us for this take too, because I know the Lions out there probably traumatizing a lot of World Leader players. This is actually our highest win rate on stat check, I believe,
Yeah,
of
I
like
mean,
all time.
for
Like
whatever that's worth,
dark
right?
for whatever it's worth, but like Dark Angels are broadly, I'd say, a don't throw matchup. I mean, a you still can't walk into a random Lion heroic, and that's pretty much your loss condition.
Yeah, I will say no army with a fight first Primarch is going to be in creme de la pairing, but generally speaking, this one should go our way.
Sure. This next up, Drukhari. Jack just got done playing against Drukhari with World
Now,
Leaders.
I did win. You should be able to see that game actually on our YouTube channel. Sorry for spoiling it. It was a very good game. I was playing Gortrak into Nick playing the new Witch detachment. That detachment's really good.
Yeah, I played into it at Worlds. This is what knocked me out, guys. And I can straight up say that this matchup was not fun. 2 CP auto fight on death. Good,
Yeah.
good start. Charge you in your own movement phase, so they essentially gain fights first into you. Pretty good. That means you have to play the buddy system.
They have two units that natively have fight first anyway, right?
Yeah, so you have to play the buddy system into them if you're planning on charging them, because they're going to just charge you, and you have to be able to charge the thing that charged you. Uh, the other workaround that is just alpha them everywhere, so that they say, sure, charge me in one spot once. I don't care. I'm going to fight on death and get rid of you, because you're probably going to be rocking fight on death sustained hits the whole time, or fight on death consolidate six the whole time in this
Yeah.
matchup. But the hard part for this for me was just the economy of units that they had. It was 20 units in this army that I fought into. The AP was insane, and their ability to just make berserkers go bye-bye is a real problem.
Yeah, -1 damage doesn't do anything if they just have a ton of damage one
Like a
and
ton. Like a
Lois
ton.
can kill an entire 10-man unit by herself, basically. That's
Yep.
not really an exaggeration,
And there's
actually.
like then there's like three Lilith clones in that army.
Yeah, there's one that's like basically Jane Czar with sustained hits.
And it's that
Sure.
one's
And
AP4,
full rerolls to hit and wound.
and that
Which
one's AP4 and damage 2.
yeah. Jay-Z rerolls wounds. This lady rerolls hits and wounds and is sustained hits. So she's pretty nasty. That's a succubus with an enhancement. She's also like 60 points. So,
I think lower. I think
I think
she's like
she's like
50. I think
55.
she's 50.
Yeah, that's pretty gross. And then they all fight on death. And then
Think
there's
about your 130 point mo that we had at one point in time, and then compare it to what we're talking about right now.
yeah, the Mo being 5 attacks at 722 base is a little sad. I'll be honest with you. So that's not great. That's not grand. And they also have Hellions, which we haven't talked about. And Hellions are basically imagine if instead of a Hellglaive, they just had a thermonuclear warhead. And they're all flying around with these things. And the moment they touch you, everybody dies. Like,
Pretty
that's
much the only thing in our army that's okay with face tanking that is just the Demon Prince, and he's like still not gonna be okay with face tanking that. Like he's still gonna come out missing an arm.
yeah, he's gonna be like flirting with death after that one, even though they are strength 5 damage too. So that's not it's not great. Because
Because I
they're
think the Witch
lance.
Cult can throw down 50 attacks out of that squad at like
Uh-huh.
sustained hits lance, and then you're just like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's not good.
so
At 522 Lance sustained hits.
so it's really a matchup you got to try to just fight on death your way out of and outvalue with Forge Fiends and try to 3-for-1 where you can. But
Yeah,
the fact,
fortunes are really big in there because I mean they fight on death. You really want to be able to shoot Hellions and stuff like that. Or not even shoot Hellions, just shoot the things that are on objectives, right? The cheap stuff, so that you can force them to bring their units forward rather than sitting behind a wall ready to charge you if you come within 9.
and
That sucks.
and this is back to what I was saying earlier with AdMech is like world leaders tend to hate armies that are faster than us, especially armies that hit just as hard as us, because we are not a durable army. We're like of the power armor armies, we're like more durable than Emperor's Children, I guess. Like that's about it.
No, we're not particularly durable. I mean, luckily we have -1 damage, which can sometimes get us through an
But
activation, but it doesn't make us tough.
yeah, but that's not relevant to the one damage AP4 army.
Anti-infantry 2 plus. No, it is not.
It is. So I would probably put this army, and this is the Witch Cult. I expect to see that army's popularity to go up. I think that is actually the all-star detachment of the army.
Very
I
good.
I think that it's a contender with Reaper's Wager. Reaper's Wager, if they're playing more of that style, you have a little bit better of a chance.
Yeah, I'd probably put everything that isn't Witch Cult into like Thinking Man's game, honestly. It's gonna be a tough game for both players, but it's something that you can
I would put
play
Witch
on.
Cult straight into Captain Y. That
It's pretty
is,
bad. It's pretty bad. You
and
can watch my game with Nick and then pretend that that is what every game will look like.
and I'm gonna go ahead and balance the
Not
opinions between the
necessarily.
two. So, because I think you're
Yeah.
equally likely, I think you're actually more likely to run into Reaper's Wager in the wild. Because honestly, it's the cooler detachment, in my opinion. But Witch Cult may be more fun. I want to try that one.
Yeah, Witch Cult seems pretty banging. Like I do want to kind of give it a shot because it seems like the perfect way to make an army that isn't durable but hits in melee fun, which is to give it a lot of nonsense. And it's
Yeah.
basically made of that. They also have a lot of fight and get back in transports, which we didn't even talk about, but that's miserable for us too. Like that's not fun.
Okay, moving on. We have Chaos Demons. I have never felt the fear of this army, Jack. Wherever the 4-up feel not paying great and clean one goes, I go table the other part of the army, then I come deal with that dude later. It's just
Yep.
typically how that matchup goes.
Don't
Uh,
overextend into this army because interrupts can be bad, right? If you charge Bellicor and a Guo and the Guo interrupts and kills 3 Exalted 8 bound, don't say I didn't warn you, but you should generally be all right. The way to get around that would be to have Exalted and Khorne go into 2 threatening units in the same turn. You start with the Exalted with the Slaughterbound, right? You kill the unit, then Khorne, if they interrupt on it with a sweep, you -1 damage. And if they interrupt on a smash, they're going to kill like 4 guys. And then you just proceed to burn that guy down as well. And then you don't try to go after 3 melee
yeah.
capable ones in the same turn. That just is
It
not going to work.
This is one where you want to like section the army off, take a couple bites at a time, right? Unlike knights where you can push their entire army over, this is one where you can afford to kind of disrespect their damage a little bit, assuming you've killed 2 bigs. If you go out and kill 2 bigs, you can take the clap back and then kill 2 more bigs. And then the game is functionally over at that point.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's
and Use your
But
grenades,
it's
use your
not
forge
free.
fiends, make sure you're doing everything you can to make sure Bloodthirster goes down, because if there's a Bloodthirster at one wound, it's a Bloodthirster at full wounds, and that Bloodthirster is going to just cleave its way through whatever's in front of it.
Likely go back into reserves if it's that detachment. I mean, if you're playing into a Bloodthirster, it's that detachment.
So this is my take, Jack.
I would say so. I would
I
say
still
so.
think like it's less scammy. I mean, it's more scammy than Chaos Knights. You kind of treat it the same, but you can afford to disrespect it in certain ways. But like, you have to take the scams real, and they can interrupt on you, which is a big difference between the two armies.
The other big difference is that they have 4 up and the knights have nothing in combat. They have armor saves, which you can punch through. So the scams are like they go from not really real, 3 exalted and a slaughterbound with lethal sustain should
Wow,
just kill a big knight every single time.
we're,
Um,
we're
but killing a Guo, who knows?
we're starting to look like a pretty good army here. This is a very top-heavy matchup tier list, Jack.
I think we are a pretty good army. Our main issue is
The
that
bottom is bad. The bottom
bottom's
is
like
bad.
not. We're less of a
Look at
well-rounded
there.
army than some of them, some of them out there, but that's okay.
So
Very good teams.
next up, we have Death Guard. Again, used to be kind of our bane. I
I,
mean,
I'll be honest, I've never experienced that.
that's why I said
Never experienced the fear of Death Guard.
kind of, because back when they were like at their height, when they had an extra 300 points of models in their army, and we were pre-Slaughter Glavebound, like that was I would argue that that was not a favored matchup, but that was a very winnable matchup,
I would
right?
say that's probably correct. Yeah.
I would have given them like the 55-45 over us then. Now they've lost 300 points of stuff. We have a very, very good because every single World Eaters list, regardless of what list you're playing, should have Exalted 8-bound in it. Now, if you choose to put Glaive on your Slaughterbound or not, that's your choice, but I definitely have an opinion on that.
Recommend it.
And if you have Glaive on your Slaughterbound, Glavebound plus 3 Exalted do 15.5 damage to Mortarion or like 14.5 damage to Mortarion through -1 damage after 5 up Feel No Pains.
Yeah, it was something like 14 to 15 damage to Mortarion. So throw a
It was
grenade
enough. It was enough to say,
out, you know?
it's enough for me to say, here's a grenade and a couple two Forge Fiends plus the Glaive Bound, and we're done. Like this Mortarion's gone. The Nurgle Demon Prince, don't even I'd never heard of him. He's gone, right? Poxwalkers, I advocate really heavily right now for the second Jackal squad, just for these guys. As soon as you have an efficient way to clean them up, problem's taken care of. Now they have to play the game. They have to put something real into us. Same problem Knights have is they don't have that high of a model count. Dash Rod Terminators are going to drop down. Just keep your Berserkers safe from them. Countercharge with your Berserkers. Counter Ingress and go after the Dash Rod Terminators. They're a slow army. They really don't have that many pieces. -1
Yep.
damage hoses them. I actually
Their
think this
full
matchup is
army.
nearly like it's not free, but it's not what it used to be.
No, they can definitely do a lot of damage if you mess up, but you get to choose every single engagement, right? It's always on your terms, and you can just burn them down, right? You can just kill them. They can -1 damage all the live long day, and they're still gonna die. Also, funny story, their shooting is actually kind of bad. It's like
Yeah,
kind of bad.
I've gotten to the point now where I just stick four chains in front of blight drones. I'm just like, try it,
So
sure to do it.
I have won shootouts as a world leader player into a Death Guard player. If you pick your firing angles properly and you make it so only some of your armies fighting some of their army and shooting at a time, I have straight up won firefights with Death Guard with just 2 Forge Fiends. If you are in contagion range, their bloat drones are really good at shooting you. And if you are not in contagion range and you're in cover, they're not. And you can actually win firefights with those things, especially because they'll like send one into the center. So you poke tiny little angles to shoot the guy in the center without getting shot down range, and then you just defeat them in detail that way. And you don't have to win the shootout, but it does put pressure on them to like, oh, I have to get stuff started. I have to start pushing these threat ranges. And then you just hit them with the right hand and drop them.
Yeah, and it's really hard for them to push your expansion with any answer other than Dash Rod Terminators as well. And if they're going to be Dash Rod Terminating your Chaos Spawn, perfect, great. Here's Khorne with the Steel Chair, just to like,
Yep. Yep. I
I
would
went
say
ahead and
they
threw him.
decided they wanted to go like Mortarion and 18 Death Shroud, some kind of really dumb list like that. I could see that going down into Thinking Man's game, but
Would you agree with
yeah. Oh yeah, big time. Yeah.
Death Watch? Weird one. I actually have kind of an opinion on this one.
Okay. I've played this one. Um,
I don't think it's free.
it's definitely not free.
It's definitely not free. They
But
have a weird, typically they're running like a Judicar, like fights first brick that's really hard to interact with. It's really hard to actually have combat tricks into it, and it hits like a truck. They're going to be showing up everywhere around you. Their firepower is insane. Typically, whatever they want to point, click, kill, they will point, click, kill. Granted, it is up to you entirely what they can see. They are basically Grey Knights. You can pre-measure exactly where they can drop down.
Mhm.
And they're going to play the long attrition game of not letting you touch them while they get to pick you apart, and they're going to sit on their expansion with the giant fights first brick, and the game's just going to be really not hard, but annoying until eventually they just jam you.
Sticky objectives on death is really bad for them because
It
they are
is bad.
a striking army that shoots. And so they drop down, they shoot you, and you're like, my
Cool.
objective. Same
But
thing with the Prince. They're actually very bad at dealing with the Prince.
yeah,
Their melee is damage 3, which in that game I got to turn to damage 1, which is
that's funny. But
pretty funny. Um, yeah, they also really it's very board dependent. If you are on a closed table, this is like free as hell. Because you just screen them back into their deployment zone and they're left trying to leave their deployment zone, I guess, because they can teleport back there and not really get good lines of sight. I've also found just screening them way back with stuff you don't care about. Like they have to be scared that you're going to go first and put spawn on their deployment zone line and a rhino on their deployment zone line and say, have fun deep striking 9 inches into your deployment zone. I'm going to be on all the objectives. You have fun with that.
yeah, and then it's just I think it's favored for us, but I do think there's a lot of failure points.
Yes, I would say so.
I
Now,
would
we do kill Indomitor kill teams very fast, but they are
yes,
also very cheap for
and
what
they
they.
overwatch very well. They do
That's
overwatch
two.
very well.
That's
So
two.
I'm gonna put them in the middle of Thinking Man's game, I think. I'm gonna give them a little bit of respect here. This is definitely one, especially because Deathwatch players tend to also just be like, they're not, nobody starts 40K playing Deathwatch. Like they tend to be, they've been around a little bit. They got bored of Space Marines, is what this is. They wanted to play not Space Marines, Space Marines. So I tend to give them a little bit more respect. Like I'm never gonna look and go, oh yay, Deathwatch, I paired into that. No, it's gonna be like, oh no, I wonder, I wonder what trick this guy has.
Yeah. I will say if we pair into them in a team event, there's like a 50-50 chance they just get a zero because of the
Yeah.
shrink back into their deployment zone thing.
Especially if it's like World Leaders Defender 2 thing, you're just gonna be like, cool. I'm gonna walk in the middle of the table and stare at you.
Yep.
All right. Next up, like I said, this has been a very top-heavy tier list. It
Yeah,
I
time to
think
put
is
some
going
bot
to
in it.
start turning on us fast.
A little bit. Yeah.
I think you'll feel
Eldar.
comfortable with this one, and we can start explaining why.
So I've actually
Maybe it's
played
like
a
here.
bunch. No. Mm-mm.
Nope.
No. No, 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 no.
Which one? Which
Nope,
one's
no, no,
here?
no, no. Captain Y. Captain Y. So I played this matchup a bunch. I've talked to you about this. I've said this on this channel a couple times. I played this matchup like 5 or 6 times as the Eldar player.
I've been on the receiving end of enough Fuegan Fire Dragon Alpha Strikes to know that this is no good for us, right?
Yeah.
And I guess I'll talk from my perspective, Jack, because I got to play into a very good Eldar player at Worlds,
Like Folger, did you?
Yokel. No, I played Yokel at Worlds.
Oh, you
Um,
Worlds, yeah.
I ended up having the Russian roulette gun of round 6, which was supply drop go in my favor. I got to go second, and then, yeah, I see that eye roll. That was pretty much my out, and my out was going second. And Jack knows exactly what I'm talking about here, but.
Yeah.
Uh, like I said, we don't like
Okay,
armies that are faster than us. We don't like armies telling us where to play the game, and we don't like armies that hit as hard as we do. Eldar checks every single one of those boxes. They're arguably the fastest army in the game, just because they don't even really care about movement. They just kind of set their models up on the table where they want, and then they shoot you.
Something to watch out though is that I think Eldar is one of the most prone armies to movement cheating because people assume that their models should be able to go wherever they want.
Sure.
And then it turns out 27 inches is
You know,
very far, but not infinite.
you know what you know what really grinds my gears, Jack?
What really grinds your gears, Brian?
Eldar players not knowing how warp spiders work. Not knowing when to roll their dice. That really grinds my gears.
Oh, I'm gonna roll the dice now. No.
No, you set
Oh.
those models up, and we're going to come back to that later because you're trying to jail me, and I hope you roll 3 1s and have to figure it
Yep.
out,
Yep. That's it.
right?
Yep.
Make sure the Eldar players roll their dice at the end of the phase,
And then make sure they don't forget, because that's the other part. They'll try and roll it early or they'll forget.
or they'll forget. And then they're very important because, like I said, if they just roll 3 1s and they're trying to jail you, that jail doesn't work anymore, right? They have to do that at the end of the phase. Anyways, tangent over. Please get your rules correct in this department. It's really frustrating because I always feel like really bad correcting them too. I'm like, actually, you're gonna have to roll that later. It doesn't really come off super well at the table. There's no polite way to say that you need to roll those later.
Do the rest
Um,
of the phase before you know if this unit disappears.
Correct.
Yes.
I would say this matchup is pretty red. Like I said, we don't need to focus on it too long. We've complained about Eldar a lot on this channel. Eventually they're going to whittle down your trash pieces, and then they're going to alpha you. Or they're going to keep you in the middle of the table and slowly pick you apart. The whole time they're going to dictate to you exactly where you can go. They're going to move block you with warp spiders every turn. They're going to out OC you with swooping band or swooping hawks. And Janzar and Lycus are going to hold a dagger above your head the entire game.
Yep.
Spawn do not kill a single five-man aspect warrior squad on average. They're just going to pop -1 to hit, assuming we're playing Warhost. I don't think Aspect Host has access
Aspect
to that.
does not fall back. No,
You're
that's
out.
my main complaint with it. It doesn't fall back into anything.
Yeah, that is exactly how I won that game into Yokel, by the way, is I managed to touch Fuegan for a turn, and that was just over. Game was over on the spot. But he was playing Aspect Host, which is it's common, but it's not as popular as Warhost.
Actually, having existed in the Eldar space, it's the other way. I think it's like six,
Really.
eight at Worlds going aspect to war.
I've
Most
only ever
don't.
seen Warhost in my locals, man. It is like I'm so
That's
Warhost, like
Vulture. Vulture and I are on the same page. We're on the same
it
page with
is
the Warhammer. I think it's
honestly
better.
Folge are probably influencing the area. But I will say
It's the same reason my locals
it's a
all Warhammer.
lot easier for the Eldar player to mess up and just break the game wide open for you than it is for like Drukari or Admech. I feel like bad Eldar players exist and bad Eldar players can lose really fast to world leaders.
Yes. Or if they do the thing where they just try to stay outside of your charge range, that gives you a lot of in to play the game.
Yes.
You a lot of ability to play the game. But if they, as you said, dictate where you can put your models by putting lines of guys in front of you while killing you, life gets unpleasant very, very quickly. So that's not like super fun. I think Blood Angels is a generally on tilt a worse army than not on tilt, but like on balance, like a worse army than World Eaters. I think World Eaters have better rules. The one thing that has me right now really looking at Blood Angels is the fact that they fly. And not having fly in a melee army into Eldar is awful.
They, like I said,
Actually awful.
those Rangers will walk up and straight into your face, turn one and say, nope, can't access this part of the table. And then they'll replace it with a squad of Warp Spiders and say, nope, can't access this part of the table again. And then they'll do it again with Swooping
Outpoint.
Hawks. And by that time, Flagon has probably picked apart an entire flank. If they have Malgan Raw doing the same thing on that flank, it's also pretty bad, right? It can spiral fast, but what would you say is worse, Jack?
I would say I would rather play into Admech than a good aggressive Eldar player.
Really? Okay, I was
Um,
actually going to go the
Maybe
other way
that's just
around, but
me. I mean, we can. They're both bad. They're both
true.
bad. A,
Um,
an aggressive Eldar player who's confident where they put their models, man, that is like if they're not scared of getting within 6 inches of you, if, as long as they know they've got you locked down, that is terrifying.
so next up we have Grey Knights.
Hold on, there is one thing we should talk about,
What's up?
which is there is a build of World Eaters that is purportedly good into Eldar, purportedly wins that matchup, even, which is the Berserker spam. I think it can win that game. I don't think it has to. I've
My
seen.
counter argument to that right now would be that World Leaders is like the third or fourth most played army in the game. And the MSU builds tend to be very favored into the 20-man builds.
Oh
I'd
yeah.
also say Raven Guard is incredibly favored into the 20-man builds. And I would also say AdMech is even more favored into the 20-man builds.
Yes, I would say Drukari is more favored. I would say most of these armies
So
are actually more favored because
I
damn
actually
big right now, they can just tee off on you.
I have seen the 20-mans actually pop off into Eldar,
Yep,
but
it can
I
happen.
am not doing that to myself in the singles meta because I think it is matchup suicide into several of these armies
Yes.
that we're going to get talking
I
because we haven't
I
gotten to
have
Space
also
Marines yet.
seen Eldar win that matchup. It's not a free win. It is in fact just a game that happens.
Yep.
So there is
Next
that.
next up we have Grey Knights. Everything I said about Death Watch, but worse for them. Like I
Yeah.
legitimately think that matchup is pretty easy. Spawn are the nightmare of this army. Your 5-man, 2 up, 4 up, Inceptors, or no, two, not two, 4 up, but your 2 up Inceptors running around the table, your strike squads running around the table. They are in danger. The Spawn are beelining to them. They got +1 AP on their mind. They got dev wounds in their pocket and sustained, and you're just gone, right?
Yep. And while that's
Um,
happening, the Spawn are blocking their entire army from being able to deep strike. Yeah, this is
Correct.
like a really bad matchup for Grey
You
Knight.
shove yourself in the middle of the table with all your trash. Grey Knights has no choice but to respond with good stuff. And then usually you do like what I like to respond to is like Yeah, kill everything else usually other than Crow, because Crow's gonna drop down and obliterate one thing, and then you're like, cool, I'm gonna take the rest of your army from you, and now Crow's gonna go up and down and obliterate me anywhere he wants, but I'm gonna sticky every objective until you slowly table me and I 20 0 you. And
Yes. Also, a big deal here is that they're if they go heavy Dread Knights are toughness 8, which means everything in our army just tees off on them.
it's actually hilarious how easy it is to kill Dread Knights for our army.
Yeah, it's quite good for us. So they don't even have the ability to be like, can you kill 6 Dread Knights? Because we're just gonna be like, yeah.
I would you call it Crem or don't throw?
Oh, that's tough. Probably Creme. Like I don't really see a plan here for them that works.
Alrighty, we gotta get in there, Jack, get in there.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
next up we have Gene Stealer Colts. I don't even really know what to think.
so I have a
Uh,
GSC expert in who's very, very good in my local. Um, Generally, I would say GSC are have a lot of things that world leaders don't like, which are units that can appear from nowhere and can trade up into expensive world leader stuff, die, and then don't count, right? Like, oh, I killed him. All right. And they just tick their resurgence points counter down. You're like, ugh, right? There's a lot of things that we're not a big fan of in that army. Now, they hate a lot of pressure, pushing them back, pinning them down, tying them up in combat. They don't love that. They don't like any of that. But in return, right, like if we pair into Biosanctic, for example, I think Biosanctic is actually a really good anti-melee army. It's a
yeah,
very good anti-melee army because they can throw out infinite waves of stuff that all just come back, right? Because they get a lot of units back here.
yeah.
That they can also, I think they get back 2 units of 5 aberrants and a hand flamer unit if they want to go beat down, and if they don't want to, they just get back 5 hand flamers and 5 hand flamer units. And each of those hand flamer units drops in wounds like spawn or whatever on fives, re-rolling wounds, a lot of things on fives,
And
re-rolling with AP1 off of a Ridge Runner shooting you. But Biosanctic in particular has units that drop out of the sky, charge in, and do actually kill you in combat, as well as having 4 up fight on death on 3 aberrant units, as well as having the character explodes and does 2d3 mortals to you when he dies. So there's the main trick here is there's 5 aberrants and an abominant. When the abominant gives the whole unit 4 up fight on death. When the abominant dies, they have a strat to do 2d3 mortals to you from the character. Then the abominant stands back up on a 2 up, and the unit they can pay the resurgence points to go into the sky. So you essentially didn't do anything, but you lost your unit, and now there's an abominant standing there with a big hammer ready to go, right? And their unit is back in the sky. So a lot of things there we're not a huge fan of. They're also very, very good at killing our jackals with indirect. They have the mortar cars, which basically every Biosync list is going to run 3, and most other lists will run 1 to 3 of them. And then they also have their Reductus Saboteurs, which are also indirect as well at strength 5, and the mortar cars are strength 6, and they can go +1 AP and turn off cover. So once the first mortar car hits you, you receive no save against any of the rest of the indirect, which means they pull up your back line. Now you stick at the objective. If only they had some way to go back into reserves.
yeah,
So in general, I would say this is like a not a good matchup. I think on balance, the stuff that they do that's bad for us is much worse than the stuff that we do that's bad for
I would say I've
them.
never had a like good pulse on what the army is capable of because I feel like this army also scales linearly with player skill.
Yes.
Um, I think okay GSC players are going to go play okay with it, and I think it's an okay army. Scary good GSC players are going to out efficiency you and just straight up math you out of the game. Um,
Yes. I would say that's a good way of putting it.
so I'm comfortable putting them in Psi. Like I know that if I pair into GSC, I definitely have to like respect my opponent a lot. But
Yeah, it's going to be a hard game. Now, if they are a bad GSC player, you will 20-0 them in 20 minutes. But if they're a good GSC player, which we have to assume that our opponents are not going to just throw, then it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one.
so next up, Astromilitarm. We got to really talk about what flavor of Astromilitarm because there's really two of them. We have the 200 Guardsman unit army, which is being popularized by Nemo the Fish.
I
He took
wouldn't say
down Olivia.
popularized.
You have
It's
to be a
literally just
there are people in my area that are doing it.
Oh,
Definitely trend setting a bit
sorry.
here. That's all the Bridgehead players with their leftover models. But that's not what you're going to run into a lot, but that is still something that should be kind of on your radar, that it is a real army, especially if you're like a TTS gamer. That's where you're going to see it a lot. But on the tabletop, I think you're more often going to run into combined arms shenanigans of just here's a few Dorns, here's a few Russes, and here's some guys in cars. And they're just going to try to outvalue you in the middle of the table. And I really respect this matchup a lot. I feel like it has a lot of tools. They're bad into us. Russes do just hurt. They are cheap and they are hard to kill. 10 Berserkers plus a character or character can just whiff into a Russ. I've done it before. You can just whiff into a Dorn. Um, there's a lot of problems with trying to get space on the table, especially if they go first. They can push you out. They have their little horsies, their caster can. It's just hard to trade into it. But if you do have a good go turn, if you have a good table, if you get up in them and you touch all their stuff, and you out trade them in the middle of the game, and you rely on Sticky on Death to carry you through the end of the game while they're jailed in their deployment zone, game can be quite actually easy. I would say that it depends so heavily upon the opponent that it is really hard to actually for me to actually put a pulse on this one.
I would
Uh,
say thinking man's game. The
I would
thing
say.
to worry about is the fact that they can put a 65-point unit on the center objective or some points amount thereabouts. And then you have to allocate something reasonable to dealing with it. Learning the skill of poking exactly far enough to see the edge of one model in the unit with a Forge Fiend and then shooting, and then their vehicles in their backline can't see you back is actually a very valuable skill here because done right, any 10 man they put in the center, you should be able to shoot some amount without taking shots from Dorns. And if you can do that, it helps you out a ton. If you can't do that, if I would suggest working on that. I'm working on
Yeah,
that skill
yeah,
because if you can't do that, the Dorns just pick up your shooting and it might as well not exist. So,
yeah. And I feel like it's table dependent, list dependent, mission dependent. Like there's a lot of things that go into this. And it's not necessarily that a bad table, bad mission is going to set you up for failure here, but it is going to drastically change how you play in this matchup.
yep. Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. All right, Jack. Next up, Imperial Knights. Now this is alphabetical, so we could have done both knights together, but I mean it's a similar discussion between the two. I will say that I broadly think Imperial Knights is a better matchup than Chaos Knights.
I think it's different, which is
It's,
interesting.
it's
They can punish you a lot less if you spend a turn in the open. So they're not chucking 108 whatever bullets at you with sustained hits and
yeah. I
cover.
I definitely fear the triple gat or the triple despoiler double gat, right?
But they also can actually credibly interrupt on you, which slows your roll down a little bit, right? We can delete an entire Chaos Knight army in one turn if they disrespect us. It gets a little more complicated with Imperial Knights. That
And
being said, I think the army's just kind of like worse than Chaos Knights. So,
I feel like Imperial Knight players are more tempted to lean into their armatures a bit more because genuinely I think they have better strat support, better detachment support. I had to play into the armature detachment at Worlds, and I have a lot of respect for it. Being able to say, hey, these three armatures all have sustained hits now. It's pretty actually, it's kind of terrifying watching a Forge Fiend disappear to an armature rolling boxcars on its thermal lance, or the Demon Prince getting boxcarred with sustained hits. It's a little
you have to
explosive.
play
I'm
into
not.
Justin. Were you in his pod?
No, this was a dude from Team Thailand.
Oh, got it, got it.
But I would broadly say if they're leaning more into armatures, I'm definitely a little bit happier. Um, but on an straight open, I'd say all of the worst case scenarios that we named above for Chaos Knights, for bad mission, bad table, I would much rather play into Imperial Knights over Chaos Knights.
So I will say you brought up the armatures, and I think the armatures are actually a very interesting thing to talk about. That army has a lot of damage to it, as I'm sure you found out, right? Like, it's surprising how much damage that army can put out if you look at their base stats. But if they take the armature detachment, I think it's like spearheaded arms or something like that.
Yeah.
Take that detachment, they can do a lot of damage out of kind of nowhere, right? They can pick, I think, like three armatures and give them rapid fire. So suddenly they're firing five
Yeah.
shots out
Yeah,
of
like the thermal lances go to
a
three shots and then they got the Melta on top. So they have five Meltas coming at you and you're just like, oh, just like
bro,
randomly.
bro, this wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And then also the Helverins can get like AP2 ignores cover. So if you are on a bad board against the armatures, they will punish you almost as hard as the triple gat, if not harder, because they can pivot their activations a lot more effectively. Because they have like 11 as opposed to 3. Uh, but we kill them pretty efficiently as well. I think the spearheaded arms is by far the least, like by far the most even of the matchups that are out of both knights. I would rather play into big knights of both varieties before I would rather play into spearheaded arms. That being said, I think we're still favored there. I think we are still favored.
Which one would you put?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. Chaos Knights are literally only ever have play on Planet Bowling Ball. Imperial Knights, I feel like, can at least keep a score a little closer because they put one armature out and ask you if you want to deal with it, and they put another armature out and ask if you want to deal with it, and they put another armature out. And
Sure.
they just kind of like slow the game down. I don't know. They're both kind of up there. They're both kind of up
Okay.
there though.
Next up, Tyranids. Interesting one. I know, like we said at the very beginning, we were talking like what's the most common way to run into it. I think Tyranid players are broadly just overplaying Monster Mash bugs, which is still a very good army and very popular way to see the army getting played. I think Tunnel Snakes is just a way cooler way to play the army, and it presents unique problems, but nothing that horrifies me.
Yeah, I would say so. I think it's like fine. I think we're favored into Tunnel Snakes for the same reason we're favored into like Gray Knights and have like a reasonable matchup into the Death Watch, right? It's a teleporting army.
The teleporting army is a 6-inch teleporting army, which there's a big difference between the 9-inch teleporting army and the 6-inch teleporting army. Like they actually, if they want to hurt you, they can come find you and can come hurt you. So you still have to have a plan for that.
Kind of. There is the caveat that they have to 9-inch deep strike a unit before they can 6-inch deep strike, so they're not going to get in your backfield off that,
Yeah.
which helps. I mean, I don't know. It's somewhere between Don't Throw and Thinking Man's Game, if I had to guess, right?
I
Also,
was gonna
a
give
very
it,
funny interaction into these guys, which is that they have a this it doesn't like really matter for the placings here, but it's very funny, which is that they have a unit that has both infantry and monsters in it.
yeah. We've talked about that so much on this channel, where it's like the in possessed band with crit 5 Slaughterbound, you can just straight up dump 200 mortal wounds on that poor Hive Tyrant.
You're that yes, evil alert. But you can drop a unit of 6, the Neurotyrant and 6 Zoanthropes. You can just drop them immediately, basically the moment that Exalted Eightbound touch them, because you have Dev Wounds and you have Dev Wounds against infantry, which they are, and your anti-monster vehicle 3 plus, which they
Which
are.
they are, and it's just granted they were probably dead without it, but it's just
Probably
funny.
yes.
It's just funny. I choose to respect them a little bit and give them the thinking man's game for Tunnel Snakes at least because it's hard to predict what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And it's hard to plan around. Like Kyle McCord, your friend, was telling me about the concept of like distortion at the table, right? It's hard to predict what they're going to do, therefore it's hard to plan what they're going to do, right? And demons, they have to commit quite a bit more. Like they're going to put a 300 point plus model in the middle of the table to charge you on a 6-inch deep strike. Cool. You can plan for that. You know that you can outtrade that, right? You're not going to show them any of your valuable resources. Tyranids, they can throw 150 point monsters at you, and they're fine with that exchange, right? They knock you off a point. They crack a Rhino. They crack a Forge Fiend randomly just from a monster popping up out of the ground. Like they're fine with that. It's much less commitment from their end.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a fair point that they have so many options at their disposal that you have to really respect it. I
Yeah.
do think you should put world leaders into Don't Throw, though. You should just be the better world leaders player.
Oh, well, that one's just been sitting there for a while. I think if it's 20 mans, it's up here. But
If it's 20 mans, it's creme de la pairing. That was, listen, I played a very good world leader player, and it was a fun game, man. I got to tell him exactly what he could do and when he got to die. It was so much fun.
yeah. Well, next up, orcs, our green cousins, who I would argue is probably, I don't know. I feel like they're in such a weird spot right now in the game. I feel like
They are in a
there's
bit of a weird spot.
like they have all of the tools they need, but I feel like the game has just power crept straight past them.
They have a bit. Also, one turn of Wa is not really enough. I so notably at Challengers Cup, I did get flatlined by orcs while playing the world leader list we had worked on. That was a confluence of a bunch of factors. I still think the matchup is favorable. I would say it's don't throw. They have a lot more tools in there in that matchup than I thought that they did going in. If you'd asked me before that matchup, I would have said creme de la pairing. I would have said they're a melee army that doesn't shoot, and we are a melee army that is good into other melee armies and it does shoot. And that is very good for us. And that's a bit reductive, I think. They still have some things that can make our life annoying. I think Bully Boys is one of the better ones into us, just because they have the second turn of Wa, and they have a critically, they have um, I mean, the second turn of Wa means that they have like a double wave of stuff, which is quite good. And then they have the 3-up fight on death, whereas Warhorde has a full fight on death, which is also very nice.
And
That being said, that game was a confluence of a lot of factors. One of which was I did not understand, or I didn't properly appreciate the level to which him being first defender gave him control to dictate the pace of the game. He got to pick his exact board when he'd practiced that matchup into multiple times, so he definitely came more ready than I was in that game. Um, in addition, I made a pretty critical error thinking one unit was just another unit, and so I got out Khorne in 10 to charge, and they charge into 10 Gretchen, and that was sad. Um, that was pretty tragic. So on balance, I would say there were things I could have done better in that game. I would still say the matchup is don't throw. I don't think they're favored.
yeah, I would definitely say Warhorde always presents that like they get the accursed turn of 5 CP, which they have Gretchen. They're going to get to 5 CP pretty quickly of going interrupt -1 to wound fight on death. And it's just really hard to trade into them for a lot of the same reasons I said about Drukari, except not that extreme. Definitely they don't have guns, so they can't bully you down table. Tank busters are real and they can hurt you, but they are pre-measurable. And it is perfectly okay to be shooting at orcs from across the table without rerolls. Like that is a matchup where I want my Forge Fiends activating 10 times. But it's
Yes,
definitely a
for sure.
matchup where I'm going to put respect on them. I do think we are favored into them broadly, but there's a big but there. I think that is very close to being a challenging game.
You can't just go silly with it, right? You can't. I think
So
if it had been on a neutral board in that particular matchup, I think I would have been fine. As it was, he got his board choice, he got the turn order he wanted, he hit some breakpoints he needed, and he honestly just played well. Played very, very well. And so we were also playing on a matchup on a mission where only the center objectives count, and we were in a melee mirror. So the moment someone got up, it was a 20-0, either way, basically. I
yeah,
just want to head that off because I still think, with that added context, I still think we're favored into this.
yeah, and I would probably agree. And I think we've been talking a little too favorably, Jack. It is time for, in my opinion, a red. Sisters of Battle now, it has to be, in my opinion, a very specific style of Sisters of Battle, which unfortunately I think that style is becoming incredibly popular very quickly.
What style is that, Brian?
Girls everywhere, girls with shields everywhere, girls that resurrect with shields everywhere, and they fight on death, and they have just the perfect anti-berserker profile. And you know what? Morvenn Vahl is still standing right behind them. My big issue with this matchup is it is nearly impossible to. You have to commit to kill it, right? You have to send 10 berserkers into the Sacrosanct Brick to kill it. There's
Yes, that
nothing else in your
real rare
army
deal.
that is going to kill it. And the problem with that is the Sacrosanct Brick is half the points if we're including the Rhino. It is half the points, and it is going to fight on death, and it is going to kill you back. But you have to have this trade at some point, or the game is not going to be winnable.
Yeah, so I actually played Sisters to Worlds last week. I played Champions of Faith, which is one of three different ways to play the army. You can play Bringers of Flame that are super fast and shoot really hard. I think that's probably our better matchup into them. You can play Hallowed Martyrs, which is what you're talking about with the fight on deaths and whatnot, and that's also quite good. But what I played was Champions of Faith, which leaned really heavy into the Sacrosancts. I had 30 of them. They were OC2. They come back to life. They're really annoying to deal with. The main issue with that matchup is the fact that the units are just not costed as high as they should be, in my opinion. So that means you have to work your ass off to kill those Sacrosancts, right? Whether or not they're going to fight on death or not, it shouldn't be irrelevant, but it does feel a little irrelevant because you're going to die regardless, right? Oh, you killed the Sacrosands. Congratulations. Here's Retributors behind them that you can't do anything about.
Or Vol is just the point click delete button for pretty much
Yes.
anything in our army at any given point in time. Thing is, Vol can do it twice. Vol is going to blow something off the table and then charge something off the table. And if you
Yes.
aren't prepared for that exact exchange of them going, you charged me, I'm going to fight on death, kill you. I still have another Sacrosanct brick behind me, and here's Vol that's going to go click, click, kill. Sacrosanct brick is going to go kill. You're kind of out of stuff at that point.
Yes. And honestly, Vol can kill three things, right? Split fire, kill
Sure.
two
I was
vehicles,
being
or
generous, but it
third.
can get bad fast.
It can get bad very, very fast. The main issue is they have a lot of cheap stuff, and if what they want to do is they want to set up a line of nonsense, and then behind that line of nonsense are a bunch of sacrosanct, and then behind that is a bunch of damage. That's a really hard fortress to crack as it runs at you, which
Yeah.
I think is what it should do, right? It should just be like, here's a wall of dominions and immolators, and behind that is 30 sacrosancts, and behind that is Vol and retributors. And that is what I did. And that's a really tough nut to crack. And it will kill you very, very well. And how it does that will vary detachment to detachment.
Yeah.
But sacrosancts are a real bear to try to kill. -1 to hit. In Champions of Faith, sorry, the one I played, -1 to hit, -1 to wound, 5 out feel no pain, and they heal.
Yep.
So like they res D3 +1 guys, and they're OC2 in that detachment. That's a real problem. They also hit on twos in that detachment. You can make them 5/2/2. They're lethal, so they'll chew through your units too. You don't want to know what the math is on 10 of them running into with full buffs running into a unit of berserkers. Even with -1 damage, you're going to lose like 8 models.
Yeah.
It's really quite poor. And then if you don't have -1 damage, you lose the whole thing essentially. And then they have Vol who can shoot and charge and do a bunch of damage. It's really hard because you get hung up on that first layer of nonsense. If you got to interact directly with their power units, it would be a lot better. In addition, this is not going to be very fun for the comparison point to point is really bad. 10 Sacrosanct plus a Hospitaller is 180 points combined.
Yeah. And you're talking Khorne plus 10 plus Rhino is pushing 400 points. It's not,
Yes.
it's the package isn't there. And in the matchup, I wouldn't say it's unwinnable. Sisters, like I said, they do have all, this is in a vacuum if you just have this exchange with them. But if you're really able to leverage your jackals with dev wounds here, you're able to leverage a couple grenades and some forge fiend activations. It really feels like you have to send most of your army and just try to overwhelm it, tag as much as you can, live through the crackback, and have enough left over to push a second time and hope that's enough to really kind of seal the game while just
It is.
holding onto your primary in the back. It's like you have to disrupt their primary while you're getting yourself tabled, is really what it
I
feels like.
Yeah, I will say I've been existing in the sisters spaces over the last like several weeks because I played sisters. I was talking to a bunch of sisters people, so I'm like in their groups and whatnot. And a lot of them think the world eaters are a hard matchup for them. I, having played both armies, strongly disagree. I think world eaters have a very tough time, but partly that's because when you have the ability to exploit problems with world eaters, all armies have problems. When an army's in a position to exploit the problems that world eaters have, you kind of need two things. One, you have to be brave. You
Yeah.
have to be willing to get close to the world leaders and get comfortable with it, right? You have to be willing to put nonsense in their face and back it up with massive damage, which they can do, but you have to be comfortable doing it. And a lot of people aren't, right? World leader players tend to be more comfortable than most. So I tend to find that me jumping from world leaders to an army tends to then kill world leaders back because I'm really comfortable getting close. Um, so you need the ability to be like brave and get close to them. And you also need a lot of melee knowledge,
Yeah.
right?
And it really feels like it's one where, like I said, I'm putting them. I'm choosing to put them in side jack. I don't think they're nearly as bad as Elder. I don't think they're nearly as bad as AdMech.
No, I don't think so.
But I do think it is a game that you have to play perfect. And I
Yes.
think, and perfect, capitalize on a mistake, and I think you have an out.
Yeah, for sure. I think that it's also very build dependent. I think there's a lot of there's a lot of different ways to build sisters right now, and some of them are worse for us and some of them are better for us.
Yep.
Is what it is.
All right. Moving on, Jack. A little bit of a marathon here. Last up, or not last up. Next up, we have Space Marines. There's plenty of ways to
Victrix Guard,
Victrix Guard this, or Raven Guard this, or White Scars this. There's a lot of flavors of Space Marines right now. We
unfortunately.
could we're I'm probably gonna hold off on the Ultramarine opinions for today because more data is needed. Maybe lists need to be written. Maybe it's fine. Maybe it's not as bad as everybody's making it out to be. Probably not true. It's probably bad. But I
I
don't
think we're one of the better positioned armies to deal with it because we
true.
can go sustained hits, dev wounds, +1 AP,
But I
and actually chew through them.
think this is kind of an AdMech situation where it's like nobody really likes playing into AdMech. Everybody's kind of like the people that are okay with playing into AdMech are like okay with it. And I think we're flirting with okay into Ultramarines, but I think it's just like all of the same problems Black Templars presented above, but better for them. I
Yes,
think it is almost strictly better Black Templars, if I'm being honest. The lists can look
not bad.
shockingly similar. Um,
It's a lot of tanks with some very nasty, very durable combat units in front of them. And if you focus on the combat units exclusively, you'll deal with them. You'll win that fight. They're not a melee army, they're a combined arms army. You'll win that fight, but you'll get shredded by Vindicators and Gladiator Reapers and stuff like that, right? Ballistas behind the front lines. So you need to take a more like holistic approach and solve the whole army at once, which is a lot harder. That's the reason I think that that army is pretty gross, is because Victor Guard are just cheap as hell.
yeah.
And so they get to kind of do whatever they want with the rest of their list, right? They take two units, it's like, still 1,400 points.
So I would actually probably put at the moment Ultramarines probably at top of Psi. I really need more reps into that to get to feel that one out. I
Yeah,
think that it probably could be fine, but it's not going
for
to be
sure.
free. It's not going to be free. It feels like it's all of the things that Black Templars have with less failure points and trickier interactions. Like you can't just Forge Fiend a Victrix card. You actually have to think that through. There's a little bit more to that because the Forge Fiend's also going to kill like two, maybe. So like we need to like
Uh,
actually think out grenading and charging, and Karn plus 10 is really the only answer to a
or
lot of these bricks to like get through them. Like the Calgar plus 2 plus 6 is a real problem.
I will say Exalted are actually not bad into them because you can go to AP4 and they don't have an invuln. So
True, but then it's just I start to lose faith in the number of attacks. Again, I think I'm just gonna need some reps into this one.
for sure. I think we're one of the better positioned armies to deal with it
I
because we
agree.
have
I
units that
agree.
can just go in and delete the unit. Right?
Now, I guess we won't get into the other Space Marine variants, but we will talk about Raven Guard, which is a very popular one right now. Here, I have a hot take, Jack, and I think
And
I've
still,
played
so what's your hot take?
I've played this matchup now like 6 times, and I have minimum 15-5'd every single time.
Yeah.
I
You still
legitimately think
are the
MSU
defense.
World Leaders is favored into this.
Oh, I think so. I think that's pretty reasonable, right? They're a deep striking shooting army, and their way of getting in when your opponent screens you out and pushes you back is to use 20 Vanguard veterans. And
And
often they don't have shields. So they die the moment you touch them or fight on death into them or
yep,
see them with a Forge Fiend or anything.
3 8 bound just show up with +1 AP and poof,
All
gone.
all day.
All of them gone. Forge Fiend shoots, 8 of them are gone, and Jackal's come in for the sloppy seconds, right? That is pretty much how that matchup goes, is the JPI and the Vanguard vets die a horrible death. They have nothing in the middle of the table, and then they slowly table me with their 6 dev sense while I sticky on death and wave at them until I score like a 17-3.
Yeah, that seems perfectly consistent with my impressions there. Especially if you get to choose the table. If this is like a teams game, you get to choose the table. Good luck, Chief.
I'm going to throw them at the bottom of Thinking Man's game because it's way too broad to actually throw them anywhere on here, and that seems just like a fine spot to throw generic Space Marines.
Generic Marines, yeah. It's a solid army, but we definitely have the tools to deal with it for sure.
Okay. Space Wolves.
I'm not accepting anything less than don't throw.
I was going to say that it is don't throw, and I was going to say it is probably of the Marine melee armies. We really don't need to get into this one too much. I think it is the one that I respect the least.
I would
Sorry, Space Wolf players.
I
It,
would agree. I
they
think
have
for
to stand in the open in front of Forge Fiends. Forge Fiends shoot them for days. We have the profiles to melt through Thunderwolf Cav. The 10-man Terminator brick can be annoying, but we still have answers.
yeah, it's basically like Blood Angels. The problems that they pose for us is like fight first, and they're very fast. Okay, that's legitimately problematic for us, right? We still have the edge there, but that's a legitimate problem. Black Templars have fight on death, have a lot, very high damage cap, and can get back in transports. That's really annoying for us. We still have the edge, but it's very annoying. Deathwing Knights and the Lion, very problematic for us, but we still have the edge. Space Wolves just don't have anything that's like really problematic for us. They just have a
Yeah.
bunch of stat lines that have to move into the center.
And you know what?
Fewer units than us. They have
Sometimes
fewer
they
less
four up
shield
us though.
than us. They
Sometimes they can
got it.
four up you, but
Really just have to.
that's kind of it.
Yeah.
So next up, Tau. Very confusing because Tau players, I think themselves are very confused at the moment. There's a lot of turmoil going on in this faction. In my opinion, Oxcod is the best detachment that you can play for Tau at the moment because I think Crude Rampagers rock. I've been wrecked, riggedy wrecked by Crude Rampagers a lot in my life. Um, I think I put them in a similar boat as Guard Jack. I feel like they do similar things. They have just quite a bit more like I don't know, Retcod, Oxcod, Montcaw, Calyon, they all play very different from each other, so it's hard to actually put a pin on what exactly the game plan is going to be.
But they have a similar thing, right? They have a through line between them, which is they have a lot of units and they have a lot of firepower. So that means you can't just push them in.
And the list that I respect the most is Oxcod for the reason that they're not afraid to play in the middle of the table, because they want to interact with you, they want to screen you, they want to hit you while still shooting you. I think that it is going to be pretty much right at the same vein as Guard, back
Yeah.
and forth. I'm always going to have the fear of 10 breachers put into me every single time that activates. That squad's terrifying. Um,
That unit's scary. Also, Pathfinders can do this, can do a breacher impression, right? Because they can guide themselves and then they get rerolls to hit or rerolls to wound if they get out of a transport, rerolls to hit if you've killed something. So like that's also pretty sketchy. There's a lot of ways that that army can kill you. Now that being said, you can also disconnect them from the center, right? So you score the points. There's a lot of ins for you as well. And their army isn't like the most reliable if they are either outside of their Montka or Kauyan, or if you've put them back over their heels, or if you've killed their guiding units, or what have you. We also have a big tough lone op. It's a real big issue for them, and we can kill their
yeah.
mountain units as soon as we touch
Yeah,
them. But,
and
like, you
he's
know,
interesting in that matchup because he forces the game to happen at that point. Like breachers aren't just going to come out and deal with him. Like they have to jam like a ghost keel plus something into you, and it's going to have to be something real. And they're going to be preying on those couple melta shots to actually go through. Now, if it's something like Retcod, that can actually get sketchy fast. The how explosive, how fast they are. Like it's hard to actually put a pin on what exactly Tao's going to be up to.
yeah, I would say it's pretty reasonable to assume that if you're playing into Tau, it's going to be a tight, tense game until it isn't, right?
And if it's
Either somebody
teams, take a
dies,
dense table and you're fine.
the
But
game's, yeah,
singles, it could be literally anything.
anything could happen. I think it's like the definition of a thinking man's game, honestly. You can't
Well,
pre-plan out
it's
the game plan. You can't pre-prep anything. It depends heavily on table. It depends heavily on what detachment they're taking. They have four viable ones. So five even. I know you were talking about Crude Hunting Pack. Like they have five
oh,
viable detachments.
ugh,
Yeah. Yeah.
ugh. I'm tired of these 200 man model armies just walking straight at me and just mathing me out of the game. But that is definitely one of those armies. Hey, but I mean, blood for the blood god, right? Skulls for the skull throne. If you want your
Yeah, you'll kill
skulls,
more of them than they kill of you. You just
that's
started
a fact.
here.
You're just going to be and you're going to be finding out what your home objective smells like for 5 turns. That's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But
Again, that's the biggest difference between I think World Eaters are a better army than Blood Angels, generally, but Blood Angels units fly and World Eaters units don't, and that is the big difference between the three, between the two of them.
well, speaking of well, not speaking of things. Thousand Suns. Next up.
Thousand Suns next up. I generally
I
think do things that this army does not like very much at all.
no, especially after they ate like 200 points of nerfs, they lost a lot of their trash, and I just threw them here as a placeholder. But the it's weird because I've seen less Vortex Beasts, which were genuinely the most problematic unit in their army for World Eaters because it was just a very awkward defensive profile for us to kill.
That was before the Grand Exaltaning.
That was before that, that's true, but still, it's like a 160 point unit, but the Exalted 8-bound squad does just send it to the Shadow Realm.
Yep.
Generally, I think this army is also in a weird spot where it's trying to figure itself out. GW is quite harsh in its last data slate to them, and I really don't think a list has been figured out yet. I honestly think a major rewrite of the faction needs to happen.
I'm saying that
Um,
for since the index came out and the start of the edition, GW
it's
still
just
hasn't figured it out.
I just think that we haven't had like they haven't had it right, and this army does not respond well to pressure. It has damage for days, but that damage falls off a cliff as soon as you make contact with it.
Yep.
Um,
And they also are very short range and don't move particularly fast. They can move, right? They can double move, they can do all that sort of stuff, but they're very short range and they tend to rely on shooting. And that means that you just get to hit them with your melee units. And spawn are such an existential threat to Rubric Marine.
yeah, I
It's quite bad.
but it's weird because I had to play into Rubric A Phalanx at Worlds, which is very interesting. He brought 50 Rubric Marines into the table. I put Karn plus 10, walked into an Overwatch, lost 8, and that was fine because I was going to full send the rest of the army.
Right.
Karn plus 2 Eviscerators made contact with Rubrics with the 4-up invuln, and I killed 1. And I was like, oh no, I'm in danger.
Like,
And then
shouldn't
the spawn next to him were like,
okay.
oh, they
Story.
like rolled up their sleeves, rolled boxcars for number of hits, and Dev Wounds flipped an entire Tin Man plus the sorcerer off the table. And I was like, huh? Like, and Karn's just like, bruh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think the matchup's broadly favored for us. I would probably put it up into Don't Throw still. The damage output of this army is insane. If they want to just jump on you really fast, they can. A lot of the detachments find a way to give them extra speed. Like Rubric A Phalanx can double move them, and they move 6, and they can disembark, and they can advance and shoot. And then you combine that with Infernal Crystal from the Index Attachment Coven, where they can just uppy downy find you. You can definitely get caught off guard. Do you agree with that placement, Jack? I put him
I would
right
say
there.
so. I would say so. I mean, it's definitely a lot more dangerous than a lot of the don't throw matchups, because they have so many tools at their disposal. The problem is most of those tools are a flowchart that ends with getting tabled by, world leaders. So yeah, I would say that's probably correct. I think Space Wolves is probably higher up on the don't throw tier list. Like I would rather play into that than quite a yeah, that seems about right. I
Okay.
think it's mostly the Dark Angels needs to come down.
Next up, oh, get in there, Jack. It's been a marathon.
We're getting there.
Uh,
We're getting there.
we
This is
have
fun though.
this is fun. We have Votan up second to last. New Codex. Very fair Warhammer, I found. I know that you guys on Art of War have been very high on the Votan Codex. Um,
Yeah, it's tough to evaluate this army. I'm going to
I
be honest with you. It feels like it hasn't gone through the refinement that you would normally expect most lists to go through. And the transport detachment can still get dudes out and hold multiple objectives after you've already attempted to contest them, which is very obnoxious, right? Because you can get Land 4 can just get 10 guys out within like 6, I think, and hold 2 objectives. That's really obnoxious. That's really annoying for us, actually. We can still find ways around that. The Berserker detachment seems really annoying for us, maybe? I haven't seen a lot of Votan in the wild, honestly. It feels like their book came out and then people didn't really play it that much.
it for me like it feels like they're trying to just play fair 40k in the middle of the table, and they lost a lot of damage coming from the Codex high, like that mid-table, mid-level damage. Like the damage is still there, but it's a lot more incremented. It feels like they have a lot more hoops to jump through where they want to hit you with this and then hit you with that and then hit you with this is like the haymaker to kill you. That is not very good into blood surging berserkers at all. Right?
No, no, it is not.
Every time I played into this army, as soon as berserkers have made contact with the front line, it has been pretty much lights out. They maybe find a way to clean up one unit, but the other unit's blood surging its way to the win. Right? And then it feels like their unit count isn't high enough to really threaten me. Like Spawn will rip through
Uh,
the Jaegers, and then their transports, like the little Capricus thing, Spawn actually flip that over. Um,
their durability isn't there against what we provide, right? Because they have high armor saves, high toughness for infantry, and it's like, well, that's cute, right? We have dev wounds, we have +1 AP, and we have very high strength. So we just kind of get through a lot of that. It's like Grey Knight's durability. It's fake against world
yeah.
leaders. Yeah,
Okay.
seems reasonable to me. Seems reasonable
Okay.
to me. All right, last up we got was this EC.
Yep. We got Emperor's Children.
This
Um,
very complicated, I would say.
Very complicated matchup. I do think it is World Leader favored.
Yeah, I see. I think it is. I know John thinks it's Emperor's Children favorite. I believe myself because that's how it works. I so the things they bring to the table that are really annoying, right? We do not fall back into anything. We don't. They fall back into everything with exceptions like
It,
caveats and
but
whatnot.
it's just the Forge Fiends and the Demon Prince and
Yep.
the -1 damage and the fight on death. It really feels like the Infractors +5 struggle to kill anything that pops -1 damage other than like 8-bound. Like Berserkers can face tank that squad fairly well through a -1 damage, as long as I'm not standing on an objective, right?
Yes.
It's going to kill like 6, and then the fight on deaths rip off, and then the character, if he's still alive, if you precision sits Khorne, he stands back up, you're fine. Forge Fiend legitimately rips apart almost any unit in their army, right?
Forge Fiends give you a pretty big in. Now,
It,
I was just listing the things that they can do. I think our ins in melee matchups are a lot better, right? As you were saying.
yep. So I would say of the melee matchups, I would agree that I think it's the trickiest, and I would say that I would put it at the peak of sorry, at the tail end of don't throw, because I think if you mess up, this army is going to be one of the few armies out there that can capitalize on it instantly, right?
They are faster than you.
But I still, and I know John says he thinks this is World Leader favorite, and you know what? I need to have that conversation with John at some point
John thinks
because
it's CP favored.
I just think I think the Forge Fiends really can like, I mean, I got to play Hammer Anvil layout one into EC, round 7 of GW, and the game was over on turn 2. Like, you can't touch any circle in the middle of the table without losing everything to Forge Fiends, right? There's nothing in that army that just face tanks a Forge Fiend.
Yeah, I was just giving the devil's advocate. I personally think it's world leader favored. I think we are very good into other melee armies. I think Forge Fiends eat, right? I think Forge Fiends just feast in that matchup. The fight on deaths are really bad into what are glorified Marines. I think that we have the ability to interrupt and or scoop units really bad, whereas, some other matchups, right? Some other armies that EC might play into, they charge you and you can't really interrupt and do anything about it, right? Because it's like Blood Angels, for example, with lag, if you're interrupting with a Blood Angel unit, you're not really doing incredible damage. You need that +2 strength, +1 attack.
Yeah.
And world leaders don't need it to do damage. They just like it. So I would say we are probably favored. I also think our prince is the bane of their princes because their prince charges your prince, does some mortals, right? Which is nasty.
Yeah.
But then you make them damage 1 and you win the fight from there. And like, yes, if they send 2 princes into your prince, you're dead to the mortals. So don't let them do that. Put out spawn first, bring them forward, and you can get good trades going on, and your guns are very, very good into them.
And I 100% agree. Lucius is a problem, but some lists are cutting Lucius at the moment. Triple Wing Demon Prince, I mean, Karn +10, 10 other Berserkers plus Juggernaut Lord for me. Forge Fiend, Slaughterbound +3. It is very easy for us to just lights out an entire EC army in just one turn. Sans, like maybe the Noise Marines in the background, but that isn't going to be enough to carry them over the finish line.
Yeah, and their princes don't interrupt particularly well, which is great
No, the
here.
whole army doesn't really, I mean, like it can, but like
It doesn't really. And not interrupting well is like really bad in a
it's a
melee match.
problem in a melee matchup,
Really bad.
especially when we are borderline as fast. Spawn are a huge problem for EC,
Yes.
as well. Spawn can just pretty easily kill an infractor for squad plus, maybe even the character if you just hot roll a little bit.
Yep. And you charge
Um,
not to the character. So that means if you do wipe the squad, the character's left by himself and not in combat.
yeah.
They're like
Okay.
as
Okay.
elite as we are, basically. They're more fragile, they're faster, and like we have a higher damage cap, and then we also have Forge Fiends. Now they have Noise Marines. Noise Marines shooting out of rhinos is something to be respected. You do have to worry about that. That is not just free. But that being said, if they are out of the rhino, they are dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That is the one thing is like their range is only 18, and 18 is a very scary number to be away from a Forge Fiend or within. That means you're probably within 28 of a Forge Fiend somewhere, right?
yeah.
So
I would say the thing to worry about is the flying demon princes. Watch out for those bad boys. If you can answer them properly as they come in, like the moment you deal with their princes, then your prince is god of war.
yeah, it is
Cannot touch them anymore.
untouchable. And you know what? You are right. I actually, if there's 2 princes in the zip code, the World Leader's Demon Prince is not safe. He needs to hang back. If there's one, he can afford to kind of. I actually use him as a bait piece. Yeah, I'm happy with one Demon Prince actually charging him. You're correct. Like he's going to do 6 mortal wounds to me. Now what? Right? Like
Yep.
now I'm just going to kill you with Karn and the boys, and I'm going to back up with the Demon Prince, and I'm going to get free CP for the rest of the game. Right?
Yep. You just make him the second wave also is perfectly reasonable. What I think realistically here is I think that while I think is world leader favored. I also think the better player will win the
I
vast
think
majority of the time.
9 times out of 10,
Yeah.
the better player is going to win here, and that's the tricky thing with these melee matchups. Like I'd say, I mean, none of the don't throw matchups. Like just because we're saying don't throw doesn't mean like slam dunk. I'm gonna get a 20 on this. No, this means that like, coach, if you put me into this, you can trust me to like me personally. I expect to be able to perform into this and get like that 12, 13, 14 range
Yes.
and maybe push more. Like, but you are one low roll on variance away from it being a very tough game or misplaying or falling into the EC. Oops, you have to fight me strat, and you're like, oh, your whole fight base is just gone and ruined, right? Like,
Yep. And the thing you notice about like the ones that are on the higher end versus the lower end of don't throw is the ones on the lower end tend to have a lot more agency. And the ones on the higher end tend to just do their game plan and you just get to answer them.
yep,
It's almost like it's a separate tier, but 6 tiers is a little much. Um, but yeah, the armies that just have to walk into our damage, I don't it matters if they're a good player, for sure. It always does, but it matters less.
yeah.
Whereas if you tell me it's Blood Angels or Thousand Sons or Emperor's Children, if you tell me it's a world-class player on the other side, I'm gonna be like, all right, well, this is gonna be a game. This is gonna be a real game,
Well,
right?
Jack, if somebody's looking to get tips on those matchups that you think are going to be real games, where would they go to get those tips?
Oh, well, they can check out the Red Path, but if they want more than that, they can check out artofwar40k.com, or Art of War 40k is our YouTube channel, and then thewarroom.vhx.tv or the artofwar40k.com is our website. We do a lot of videos. We have a lot of games. I've played World Eaters on our stream quite a bit. I just tried out Gore Track, and I played Berserker Warband quite a bunch. We also do coaching and we do master classes and we do group coachings for all different things. I just finished up a group coaching for world leaders, for example. So a lot of stuff to talk about there and we do in detail. So if you want to go check that out, it's Art of War 40K is our channel and then either artofwar40k.com or theworm.vhx.tv.
Yep. And then, like I said, guys, thanks for sticking around. I know this has been a little bit of a marathon. Please feel free, please, to check out our Discord and our Patreon ourselves too. There we just started doing workshops. We actually have a few really big announcements coming out. They actually might be out before then. Maybe we're looking at bringing on a couple new Primarchs onto the channel. So keep an eye out for that. Definitely going to be a big boon to our content. So if you like what you see here, guys, like I said, check out our Patreon. We got a couple extra things going on there. We have dice, a few other things coming out. Thank you so much, guys. We really appreciate the support. Thank you, Jack, for coming on.
Of course. Thank you
Um,
for having me.
yeah, it's always a pleasure, Jack. So with that, guys, stay healthy, stay safe, and kill, maim, burn.